my bags with my feet up. Hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bag, yeah. I see them hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bag, yeah. I see them hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bags with my feet up. Hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bag, yeah. I see them hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bags with my feet up. Hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bag, yeah. I see them hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bags with my feet up. Hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bag, yeah. I see them hoes down, G's up, feeling on my bag, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining Chair's Table. It's a very special live stream today. Trying something a little bit new. I'm very excited about it. I have just found out in the moment that my lack of premium X account means that I cannot stream live to X. C'est la vie. We do it raw on YouTube only. At Chair's Table, everyone gets a seat. It's up to you how much you eat. All sorts of fun stuff happening in the crypto world and the rest of the world, as always. I look forward to getting into it. With me today, and as the title suggests, is my longtime friend, Lake. We first met 20 years ago or so. We were both in college. And we've been chatting quite a bit recently. Blake is an accomplished and established writer. And as I had read some of his recent work, we had been in conversation, and Blake is now helping me with a title of my own, a tale not oft told of one Napoleon. But I digress. With me now, established writer, resident of the Bay Area, longtime resident, lifetime resident, basically, of the Bay Area, is my friend and yours, Blake. Blake, welcome to the stream.
Hello, Chair.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Should I clean up that bio, or should we just let them think that?
No, please introduce yourself as you wish.
Well, I like established and awesome writer, whatever you said, but more emerging, I would say. And 20 years. Must have been 2005. So I guess that's 20 years ago we met. And I'm helping you with this previously unknown story about Napoleon. Historians will have to verify the accuracy or not later. But you're also helping me with my next book, which is the third in a trilogy, and it involves a crypto market, schemes, and treachery. And you're helping me navigate those waters. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to joining this community of sorts.
Now, it's been it's a lot of fun for me to field your questions and to get a look into your perspective on things, as I've been way too deep for way too long in this world and have my own jaded and whatever, my own perspective and view on things. But to have a more, I don't know, I guess, more of a virgin take on
Yeah.
the issues and
Oh.
the
I was gonna help you with novice, but yeah, virgin's good.
yeah, and certainly there is no lack of controversy or mainstream attention now for crypto, where maybe it had lacked for a very long time, or at least regulation wise. It seems like it was always very vague and ambiguous, and now it just seems like the rails are completely gone in terms of the United States federal government. And
Yeah.
where I think the Justice Department this week completely eliminated their crypto enforcement task force, or whatever their name was for it. So
Yeah.
it is crime season.
And we had
fully.
we have this Fed beef with Trump and Powell, and what was interesting to me was, as I was learning the crypto stuff you're explaining, the stock market kind of started to resemble crypto in a way, the way that we were looking at with the tariffs and the ups and downs and stuff. So that kind of opened my eyes, where if I didn't know about the crypto stuff, I would not have recognized those patterns. So that was kind of interesting. Kind of awakened my perception of things.
Yeah, it's interesting how the stock market is increasingly starting to look like, or at least the unease and uncertainty of things is bleeding into the stock market the way it sort of always has been for crypto,
Yeah.
except for short bursts of bull market moments, 1 year or a year and a half at a time. Yeah, I think now Trump and Powell are at odds, or seemingly at odds. So we'll be.
Yeah. And also, but what I really liked about the crypto and why I wanted it in my book, this next one, was the characters kind of angry. And I felt like crypto had this real like punk rock feel to it. And, or at least it began at that such. And then you can maybe say like it's not the same or not. And you've kind of mentioned that before, but I just really like that whole idea for a book. And I kind of like, and then like humor and the cynicism and kind of the like c'est la vie attitude I really enjoy. And so it's been a lot of fun. And but definitely some shit goes down, I gotta say, the more I learn.
Some shit definitely goes down. It is a very cynical place, and it's the sort of mimetic warfare and strategy and movements that happen on the timeline and in the communities, or in the various communities, and the different cults and cabals that exist within the industry, I guess.
Also, like the underground nature makes it like automatically shady, like the black market, underground. Whenever you hear those, you're not thinking like it's necessarily a nice place to go. Like you don't go to an underground scene for ice cream. So like that is all, and I love that stuff. I'm not like a gambler. I'm not like a raver or everything, but like I like the idea of like the grime, and like there's something authentic about it. And so there is something really authentic about crypto people. And even though they're shady, it's like they're very authentic about it, and it's who they are kind of. But like since it's underground, they can hide behind it and be them more of their true selves. So all this shit is like awesome. And as a writer, I don't know how it's like to be in it, and I don't really like invest in crypto, so I'm not like, I am definitely an outsider, virgin, as you called me. So yeah, like I'm down. I have some questions, but if
I'm
you want
excited to get into it.
But yeah, so whatever I could ask, or if you wanted to like.
Yeah, so before we get into the questions, and I'm excited to field some of your queries, I do plead with everyone to please give us a follow on Twitter and X. Give me one moment. I will pull up our various profiles here. Give me one moment. I am at Very Comfy on Twitter, VRYCMFY. I am unverified. Lake is at dude_light lake.
Killing it with the followers.
He is absolutely killing it with engagement and followers, and his tweet count is 0, so he will not clog up your timeline. And hey, turn notifications on while you're at it. The before we get into the show, I want to just share with the people your novel, Tailored in Blood, Volume 1, available now on Amazon for the low price of $0 on Kindle.
Yeah.
Folks, there's no reason.
Well worth the money on that price, I got to say. I'm confident it's you'll get every penny's worth on the $0. And Volume 2 is coming out next week, and then you're helping me with Volume 3, which hopefully will be out by the end of the year.
And Volume 3 features a crypto character of sorts, or at least touches on the.
And I'm working on his origin story. I'm trying not to get too excited because I'm trying to finish Volume 3 first, but and he might have the same initials as someone on this stream right now. And so yeah, it's please check out the first one, and then this one's not too long. The second one is a little longer, and the third one will be even a little longer. So there you go.
Tailored in Blood, Volume 1, available now on Amazon by yours truly, Lake. During this show, folks, we will get into some of the crypto happenings and news over the past day or so and things that have happened on the timeline. Lake has some questions for me from his perspective as a more virginal crypto participant, or at least observer for now.
We'll stick with virgin. Okay.
We'll see how much Bitcoin Blake starts stacking after I Bitcoin pill him. There are some new points and promotions happening for crypto social media projects that I am excited to get into for a personal favorite project of mine called Portrait.so. Just announced, minutes ago, if not an hour or so ago, announced their new points program. And who doesn't love a points program? Because what comes after a points program? Usually an airdrop. I don't know. I'm not on the team. I have no affiliation at all. So I can speculate all I want that if there's a points promotion, there must be an airdrop to follow, right? I personally have a portrait profile that I minted, so I think I'm doing well. I'm also hosting 2 profiles on my portrait node, so I should have some points racked up, right? I think it hasn't started yet. We'll get into it. We will take a dive into the pond.
To the lake.
What is happening? Oh, well, you are Lake, but there is a pond,
right,
and that pond is pond0x.com.
Nice.
And we'll take a quick dive into the waters, the warm, lava-warmed waters of the pond. I do have a dead and alive guy birthday of the day for the people, and then we'll check out the timeline, see what's happening in real time on X and elsewhere, perhaps, and we have a dead or not dead game set up for you at the caboose end of things. We'll see if we get there. I do appreciate you watching and listening to Have a Take with Chair and Lake. I'm Chair, that's Lake, and you are better for it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So give us a follow, folks, and on YouTube, the channel is at Very Comfy, same as my handle on Twitter. So in terms of crypto news, I think the biggest thing that has happened in the last day or so is the company Coinbase, which is the largest.
They promote at Warriors games. I'm a big Warriors fan, and they're like a sponsor.
Yeah, in fact, they are increasingly promoting all across the big 4 sports. They're just getting into the mainstream as heavy as they can right now. Coinbase is the largest centralized exchange in the United States. I think Binance is globally the largest, but Coinbase is the big daddy in terms of the United States, and I guess in terms of, I don't know, I guess how much money they've funneled into the political.
Yeah. And the Warriors have Steph Curry, and he got all caught up in that. So.
Oh yeah, Steph Curry, famously owner of a Bored Ape.
And he was investigated, the whole thing.
He was indeed. So Coinbase has an Ethereum layer 2 network, which of course is a blockchain that sits under or above, depending on how you look at it. But let's say Ethereum is the layer 1 network, and there are a number, and at this point, infinite, what we call layer 2s or L2 networks that have their own sort of economies and things happening, transactions happening, that all settle eventually on Ethereum mainnet. And this is done for efficiency and for cheaper transaction costs and speed, or at least that is the claim by most of these L2s. Well, Coinbase, the big, giant, monolithic corporate American company, has their own L2. It's called Base. And just yesterday, Base, and let's see, like, it's interesting that Coinbase has not, they've removed a whole bunch of tweets, and one of the tweets that they removed is their promotion of a new token that Base, the
Basis for everyone.
Yeah, Basis for everyone. Exactly. Where did you see that? Is that on the screen?
No,
how do you know that?
Yes, yesterday I saw.
Ah, yes. So Base dropped a token and was promoted by all of their favorite timeline cowboys. And I'm trying to look back now.
Is that like Coinbase influencers?
Yeah, I will. Oh, yeah, I mean, if you can call them. Yes, Coinbase does have their own influencers, and
remember Larry David had that commercial. Do you remember that commercial?
Was that a Coinbase commercial?
That was a crypto commercial. I think it was the Steph Curry.
Crypto.com.
That was the Steph Curry one.
I do remember the Larry and how much. I mean, what do you think Larry David's rate is to?
These were my favorite people, so it just I hope they came out unscathed. Larry David, Steph Curry, and stuff. So. Shaq.
So Jesse Pollock is the DevRel over at Base, and yesterday tweeted out. Yeah, we have found him. And yesterday he tweeted out this coin, and I am looking. Content coins. There we go. So there was quite a large controversy yesterday, and I wonder how much timeline cleanup has been, but the token that they dropped basically immediately rugged as soon as the official accounts as soon as the official accounts tweeted about it, millions and millions of dollars of liquidity were immediately pulled. So it was effectively coordinated pump and dump.
Is that one of the rug pulls?
Exactly. It was rug pull. Now, the chart has since recovered. And what's interesting is that I cannot find now the tweet of the announcement of the token that happened yesterday. And
so the lawyers are on
it. The lawyers are very much on it, and timelines have been scrubbed, and the Base Together community is
so Base is not for everyone in the end.
I think well, the chart has since recovered, but what happened was, like, if you think about it, all the insiders, and it's funny that it's probably good that I don't remember the name of the token offhand, or it might be Basis for everyone, whatever. This is what's more interesting is the mechanics of how this happens, and it's like this is the most basic playbook, and I'm omitting like tons of details, but basically all of the insider, like any pump and dump, a token is created and it is spread quietly that it's on. People get in, everything is very quiet, but liquidity is added to the liquidity pools, and a bunch of insiders stack their bags full of said token before the greater public is aware of it. And then large accounts start tweeting about it. So what happens? Well, all of the, among many other things, all of the AI bots that are now trained to make decisions, like trading bots that are watching the timeline and ready to deploy liquidity, but people are as well. So when Coinbase and Base, the side chain, and the DevRel of Coinbase and whoever else, or of Base, and whoever else was on the inside to tweet about this thing, when all of their combined millions of followers see that, oh my gosh, there's a new token, they all pile in. And them all piling in is coordinated at the same time with all of the insiders piling out. So what you see is some like steady accumulation right up until the tweet. When the tweet happens, and usually, I mean, probably they time things. I haven't done. I think Zach XBT, famed crypto Twitter investigator, will probably do a thread on this at some point. But liquidity within a liquidity pool, and I'll pause there. Do you know what a liquidity pool is?
No, but I would assume. So my question really was before that was, is all the liquidity, so the AI bots are fake, right? So is the liquidity real?
The liquidity is real.
Every dollar is real. They're not like pumping it up digitally for other people to think that it's numbers that are not that.
There are things that you can do to play games with the data. I'll just say it that way, but there are sources of truth for information on the blockchain that you can check to see, like, is this liquidity real? Or is it just this site is telling me that there's 5 million in liquidity in this?
And I'm saying, like, the con could still work with real liquidity, but I'm just asking, in addition, like, is it actually real liquidity? Like,
it's real. Yeah. It's real, and it's part of it. And people check block explorers and different sources of truth.
So they know that they have to pass those smell tests to get the con to work.
Correct, but people, I think the average user that is going to fly into something that they see off the timeline and go like, okay, here's 100, 500, 1,000 bucks. I'll throw at this because, look, the official Coinbase account is tweeting about it.
Okay.
The official Base account is tweeting about it. All of the influencers are sort of known.
And they still trust those even after all this stuff.
Yeah, people trust. But people are looking, people, for the most part, maybe the majority of the participants in all of this are, whatever their convictions are philosophically, they are gambling addicts. And so, so
they don't need to trust it. They just need to make a risk.
They need to think there's an opportunity to win.
Okay.
So it's one of the things that people know generally is that the earlier that you are in on a coin, the more potentially you can make.
And people did make a ton of money off in the beginning of crypto, especially. So it's not like it's not based on fiction, but it just seems are still people. Can the average guy, like, I have no crypto, barely any crypto. If I jump in, is there like an actual opportunity like there was 10, 15 years ago still?
Yes. And I think that's why people continue to participate and why things are still growing. And it exists, among other places. New tokens are always the place where because everything is so speculative, and the earlier that you can be on something, if you can get in on something the first minute that it launches.
But that is also the most vulnerable to a pump and dump scheme.
And that's what happens 10,000, 100,000 times a day. So here's a new token. Oh my God, you could be the first in. You could be the first in on this. You could be the first in on that. So so people need to be very, very careful. And, but that is the.
But they're also the average community person who's into it. They're betting on 10, 15, 100 of these.
Oh, I think it depends on their moxie and appetite for risk. I think,
but they're not just like they put it all not on one, do they? Or do they just go like a Trump coin? They're gonna go all in on Trump.
I think some people go all in on stuff all the time. Yeah. And I'm sure some people went all in on Trump coin.
And then Malay had that thing in Argentina.
Malay had one. Trump had one. Melania had one. Every celebrity Melania. That there's a
Melania,
Yeah.
that was not she was not a virgin to it for sure.
In what? Into scams?
In any way, she is not a virgin to anything.
There's nothing virginal.
No,
She is a mother.
Well, that proves my point. So anyway, you were talking about liquidity pool, and I'm sorry, I actually want to know what that is. So if you can define that.
Say it again. You want to know
liquidity pool?
Liquidity pool. Okay. So very simply, in order for you and I to trade a token that is not, other than like amongst each other, I'll send you this, I'll send you that, right? You need some public marketplace, like an automated market that handles the swapping of these tokens, right? You have ETH, you want Tether, or US dollar coin. You need to swap this. How are you going to get that? Well, you can use a centralized exchange. You can use a centralized exchange like Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, all of these wonderful ones.
And centralized is verified, secure. What does that mean?
Centralized basically means that it's not actually your crypto, and you just kind of have an account that shows you a balance, and you send them money, and they say, "Oh yeah, you have this much," but in reality, it's custodial. They are the custodians of your crypto, and they decide.
Are they
decide at the end of the day?
Are they legally obliged to fulfill that?
I mean, to whatever end, like, yes and no, because people get locked out of their accounts all the time for all sorts of different things, and there's constantly stories of people losing access to their crypto in their centralized.
But like, if I cashed out, could they just say, "Sorry, I don't feel like it"?
Yes, 100%, 100%. So the non-custodial nature of crypto is part of its appeal. It's one of its values. It's one of its greatest features, and that when you're interacting with the blockchain, and I'm talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of the truly or decentralized peer-to-peer blockchain networks, it's non-custodial, and permissionless. You do not need permission to interact. If you have an account, if you have a wallet, if you have tokens in that wallet, there's nobody stopping you from interacting with whatever smart contract when it comes to Ethereum, or in Bitcoin, all you can there's some Bitcoin now is starting to gain some features and functionality that are like Ethereum, but basically still like Bitcoin is a ledger. Yeah. I send you tokens, you have these many tokens.
So it's like they're like a bookie.
Kind of, yeah, it's a book. Exactly. And that's basically
you're betting
now,
and they're the bookie keeping the bets and the tabs. And if the bookie runs away with the ledger and all the money, it's too bad for the people who's on that book.
I would say like that's mostly correct, but in the there are, because Bitcoin is a decentralized network, the node runners, the validators of the
and there's no way you can like go into debt with them. Right. So like what would stop me
not on Bitcoin
of holding this whole deficit and then just saying like, owing them money and then just saying, well, fuck you, you don't owe me, I don't owe you, and like
that's an excellent question.
But they don't do that, I guess.
I mean, are we talking about decentralized? So if we're talking about so if we're talking about centralized exchanges, which like I'll cut it there. Like basically, like you can't. I mean, you can use your credit card and just go into your own.
That's what I'm saying.
You can. Yeah.
No, but like, absolutely. can you get? Do they provide credit ever? I guess.
No, but if you want to buy crypto with your credit card, there are plenty of places to do that. You can go into debt to Visa or MasterCard, or whatever. But so in terms of a decentralized exchange, so like the whole reason, so there's centralized, but that's the whole notion of centralized exchanges goes against the vision, ethos, reason that crypto exists, that Bitcoin first came about, is that like self custody and trustless.
That's the punk rock aspect I loved about it.
So a centralized exchange is like, no, man, like we don't we don't fuck with that, or at least that's the sort of more that's the more I'm trying to avoid using some buzzwords, but I guess the more cypherpunk way to go about it, it's not a buzzword, but is to not use centralized exchanges, to use decentralized infrastructure and decentralized services like automated market makers that create that.
That was more authentic to the founding fathers of crypto, I guess.
Correct. Yeah. So the way these liquidity pools are created, and the biggest Uniswap is the sort of the biggest name in terms of decentralized exchanges. Uniswap V1 was the first automated market maker. I think on Ethereum. I could be wrong. Now they're on V4. Most liquidity pools are still V2, and that all like I won't get into what all of that means, but they have since progressed.
I feel like I'm in
technology.
calculus class or damn it.
Yeah, I know. I apologize, but basically,
it is what it is.
This is how a liquidity pool works. You, as a liquidity provider, like the most simple way to think about it is, you are earning fees. Like if you provide liquidity, what is the incentive for someone to provide liquidity in these pools? You earn fees off of the swaps back and forth. Usually, it's 0.3% of whatever the value of the trade is goes to the liquidity pool providers, and then they, whoever, and it's a group of people, typically it's not just one person, that 0.3 is divided amongst the people proportional to how much liquidity they have staked, right? So somebody trades $100 million in a trade, let's say, then the 1% would be a million, so it'd be like 300K is now spread out amongst the people who are providing the liquidity, and proportional. So like the biggest, if somebody holds 15% of the liquidity, this is an oversimplified example, but if I hold 20% of the liquidity in that liquidity pool, I'm going to get 20% of that 300K, and so on and so forth for the rest of the liquidity providers. And how you provide liquidity is there's infinite pools, and you can create your own if they don't exist for token pairs. So I have Ether, the ETH token, and I have US dollar coin. I pair those together. I package those together and provide it. I have these tokens and those tokens. I send them to the liquidity pool. The liquidity pool sends me what are called liquidity pool tokens, which represent my stake in there. These also have value, by the way, because they represent my stake in the liquidity over there.
This is how my simple crypto virgin mind digest that. It's like when I go to the arcade and I put in my $5 and I get tokens just for the arcade to play the arcade. And it's like,
yeah, basically, but you can exchange them back for real money if you win.
Right. Okay. So, okay. Through the liquidity pool, you could exchange it back for real money?
Yeah, basically. Because so you have those liquidity pool tokens now, and let's say, lots of action back and forth on the thing. So you're accruing fees, So let's say you put in $10,000 worth of value into the liquidity pool, and there's all sorts of ways you can get fucked in this through what's called impermanent loss, or IL.
Well, okay, so I saw this documentary, and this is why also when I started thinking of, like, I'm always thinking for the plot of like what's a scheme, a scam, or like a plot line. So this guy, this was years ago, he didn't want to pay. He was moving from Canada to US, and he didn't want to pay the bank fee, which was like 8% or something. And so he put it all into this Bitcoin thing, and he lost it all, like $3 million. Was that liquidity? Like, what was he? Was that a liquidity pool he put in, basically?
So can you describe it again? So he took $3 million.
He didn't want to use the bank. He moved from Canada to America. He didn't want to use the bank because it was like 8% fee or something. So he put it all into this. I don't know what it was, I guess. And like he put it into this Bitcoin bank or something, or maybe liquidity pool. And then the guy just like ripped him off.
He wouldn't have put it into a liquidity pool.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Like, that's not the way. I mean, really, it's interesting. If he had, let's say, if you have 3 million in fiat and Canadian dollars, let's say, and you're trying to move that to the United States, it would, like, yeah, a liquidity pool is not the way that someone would navigate that. It would, yeah, I'm not.
So what is the advantage of, why would I use a liquidity pool instead of just going directly into the
if you have, so like, I think the safest way, the safest reason people do it to speculate, but why people, if you have a lot of value in stable coins, for instance, this is the safest way. For whatever reason, I have $1,000 in stable coins, let's say US dollar coin, like 500 US dollar coin and 500 in Tether, which are both pegged to the dollar, so the prices stay typically usually rather stable. Sometimes it's 0.99, sometimes it's 1.01, sometimes it'll fluctuate even a little bit more, but typically they stay pegged at $1.
Yeah.
And there are liquidity pools that pair US dollar coin with Tether. So for whatever reason, people are swapping those back and forth. So you're earning, so you can take a very stable store of value in both of those. And if you're planning, if you're planning to keep it for a certain amount of time and you're willing to take the risk that like they don't depeg, let's say, then you can put that into the liquidity pool and start earning that 0.3% on every trade based on your stake in the liquidity pool. Say, but if there is a lot of volume going on that pair, you're going to earn fees on that value that you were already going to keep anyway. So basically, you're earning some sort of percentage return, yield percentage return on.
So everyone that enters the liquidity pool is almost like a stakeholder. They have like stocks in that liquidity pool.
Kind of, yeah. But basically, yeah. And so that's one reason. It's like, you can project that you'll earn a few percentage or even sometimes higher, more on value that you're planning to keep anyway.
What is an average of what is a typical amount in a liquidity pool?
I mean, the biggest
or the worth or the value of like if you were like to sell the whole liquidity pool, what would the typical one come out to? Like how much money?
It goes anywhere from the millions to the hundreds of millions, depending on what pair.
So if I'm like a billionaire, I could just set up shop. I could set up a liquidity pool on my own.
And they do, and that's where like the cabal stuff comes in. But if let's look at US dollar coin and some of the top liquidity pools, like let's say USDT, USDC, and Tether. So this, I'm looking for one on ETH.
But the danger is if it's one person, they can just pull out their money anytime.
Correct.
So you're looking, when you want to go into a liquidity pool, you should see how many people. Can you see how many people are invested in it?
Yes, on a block explorer, you can always look at.
So you want more diverse and more people in it to be safe, probably.
Yes, you want as much diversification as possible. So this one for like Solana, I don't even know what chain. Aptos, that's very funny. There are many different networks now. So if we look at USDC, I want to find USDC on ETH. That would be one of the higher. This one has 1.5 million in it. Where is this? It's so funny. These are. I'm looking for ETH mainnet. Where is my ETH mainnet? For God's sake, why is that the hardest one to find on Dex Screener? Seriously? How about just ETH? Boom, 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 boom. It's really funny. They show all of these. So this is the base chain that we were looking at, or we were talking about earlier. And
what is this?
So we're looking at the ETH, or Ethereum, or Ether. Yeah. Ethereum is the network. Ether is the token. This is the ETH US dollar coin pair on the base network, and it has 589,000 in liquidity.
And so when you were saying layer
9.5, yes.
Is this a layer? Is this the layer 2 base?
Correct. Base is a layer 2 that settles on Ethereum and is controlled by the corporate entity Coinbase. So its decentralized nature must be called into question because we can see how
it seems like there's an overlord centralizing it.
Exactly. So we can see since the creation of this pool on the 23rd of January of this year, ETH has been abysmal.
Yeah.
And that is the nature of things. So,
but when you
liquidity pool,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I have ETH and I have USDC, and let's say if I am,
but these are not locked in prices. Was my question, I guess.
I mean, the price fluctuates based on how much.
But like when you buy it
in the pool,
you can lose all of it. It's not like you're locked into a price. Like I bought it at this. and now I have it. Now this ether is worth this much. Like
you can lose all of it. You absolutely can lose all of it.
So everyone is at the same price point. There's no like, oh, I have it's like locked in at like $3, and now it's like falling to $5. It fell to like 50 cents. There's no way to keep that $3 line. Everyone falls down to 50 cents.
Correct. And basically, like everyone, like nobody gets the exact same price because it's always auto adjusting based on
that's what I'm asking.
So the activity. So yeah. So it
and
always
that can also be manipulated.
Right
that could also be manipulated.
Correct.
That's what I guess I was asking. Like some people might not lose as much if it falls.
Correct. And it's all about the way. So like these days, it used to be that you had to provide an even amount of value between both tokens.
Yeah.
And you couldn't set a range for where you want to, like at what prices you want to provide liquidity. And you can now, but for the sake of simplicity, I won't even talk about that, but I'll just say like, if I have $100 in Ether and I have $100 in US dollar coin, I have to pair that much together.
Yeah.
Pair them, put them in. Now, what if ETH starts going down? People are selling ETH,
but now you can almost guarantee with the price point or the sell that you know that you like the con is that much easiher now that you can set the price point if you wanted to. Because like you don't have to wait. You'll get out and you could like when you're getting out. You know when the price will hit that. You know when you can have like even an algorithm to tell you exactly what will be the most optimal time to set to get out.
Yeah, and you can automate things to make.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they don't even have to like be on their computer doing it. They could set the con from the beginning now if they wanted to.
Correct. Okay. But what happens the way you get really owned? Like US dollar coin is it like because it always stays even, then in the example of ETH and USDC will always basically be here while ETH is doing this. So on a big ETH drop, let's say people are selling ETH, let's say I put it in, wherever they are, and then over 10 days like ETH drops a lot. When I pull out, like when I exchange my liquidity pool tokens back for what I got coming to me, I'm going to get mostly USDC. I'm going to get mostly ETH and no USDC because that's how much people have traded
and then
out of ETH. You might be fucked.
Yeah.
Or a lot of
can you take that as capital to another place? Or is it
of course. It's permissionless. But the risk that you're taking is that ETH or any token like goes down so low. Let's say you had an even amount of both. I have $200, 100 of each. I put it in, and then one of these tokens, their price just goes down 90%.
Yeah.
Now people have been trading out of it. So that's what you're going to end up taking. So you have this token that went down 90%, and you pull that out. So you can lose potentially all of your value depending on
and that's a rug pull generally.
It could be that's part of the mechanism of the rug pull is they're like luring people in to provide liquidity and then just fucking dumping on them. So that
with that Malay controversy, let's take the politics out of it and whether he was involved or not, but he did promote it and then it got whatever. That loss, that was like 4 billion to 200 million, something like that, evaluation drop. And then, so who lost all that? Everyone lost money except for those 8 wallets that pulled out, that did the rug pull.
Everyone that bought the token, because the same thing, like insiders are building up to this point that they know they're going to go public with it.
Let's say it was just because it's Malay. I don't care about he's right-wing, left-wing, or whatever. But let's say, like, what is Malay? What is his incentive? Are they paying him? Obviously, there's this altruistic, like, I just did it for the country. But, like, no one, let's be cynical and say that's not why he did it. Is he one of the wallets? Is he getting paid?
I think he's getting paid. He's likely getting, I think, yes, he's getting paid, likely in cash. Like, he's not operating. He's not operating his wallets.
Like a fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, put your name on this.
Here's $20 million.
And that's what all the celebrities get. Put your name on this, and our team of experts will.
So they said they made 110 million, those 8 wallets. If you had to guess, is he making $1-2 million off that? You think? by promoting it?
No idea, because I don't know the inner workings of
So
like
anyway,
he might have they might have something on him and they say like, no, you're doing this, or XYZ happens. Like who knows the inner
right.
workings of
It's
it,
actually
but
it's not so important anyway.
the celebrities like Kanye, for instance, a big story, like Kanye sold
Oh, yeah,
access
he had a
to his
coin.
Twitter. Yeah, or like basically he didn't even do a coin. He just sold the rights to use his name and Twitter account to a scam group for 20 million. That's the price of Kanye's Twitter. And yeah, that's what he did. Like
I don't know. It's really horrible, but it's just so it's these people, like, this is why I love as like a third party writer. Like, it's so comical and real, and of course it's Kanye. You know, if the type of celebrity it's going to be, almost for sure now. You know, it's going to be Logan Paul, it's going to be Kanye, it's going to be one of these guys.
The Barstool guy.
Yeah, and it's every time. Yep. Anyway,
the Barstool guy has launched like
Kanye sold it to scammers. I'm just like, that is a scammer selling their scam to another scammer.
What a marketplace, huh?
It's so much money too. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, he's probably like at the highest end of what somebody can.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, yeah, and it was a well-known group, and it was sort of exposed that what was happening. So I think.
Okay, so I want to get into an existential question I wanted to ask. So, but I don't want to.
No, please let's rip it stream of consciousness.
So, because it is like the terms and stuff are really important, but like for someone like me, I just get overloaded, so I have to like simplify it sometimes. But okay, you've been in this space for a while. I think we both kind of like the idea of it. I'm just like I'm more prudish with money, like so it's hard for me to even like. I was on Robinhood for like 2 years, and I just got out of it just after a while, just because like. I didn't care anymore. Like, you have to really care about it, I think, to make a lot of, like, I would make a couple $1,000s a year, you know, like it was great, but okay. But we like the punk rock, we like the underground, we like the founding fathers. People were making a shitload of money. People were actually smart about it. Like I had this friend when I lived abroad, and I think he lives in Japan now, but like he was so on it, you know, and like he made a shitload of money. I think he lost a lot of it back though. So anyway, so like, and he was really smart. So I actually like, I don't think people are foolish to go into crypto. I think it's the future. I think it's like, you know, but at the same time, like all this stuff is happening. It's unregulated. It's unsafe. If you don't have money to burn, what is the incentive of investing in crypto right now in 2025?
If you don't have money to burn,
no, like you don't have millions. You have like, let's say like, okay, I have $20,000 to invest. Why would I invest in crypto right now? It seems fucking insane.
I mean, I guess the straightforward way, like if you believe that there is more potential return in capital and something, I think so. Yeah, or at least, but like my familiarity with the crypto markets is a lot stronger, or it's a lot more. I have a lot more experience in the crypto markets than the traditional stock market TradFi stuff. So for me, and like I think I probably this perspective is probably shared with a lot of people, in that because I am plugged in, and like everyone's level of plugged in is different, and nobody is like, I think nobody is as plugged in as they think they are, and at the same time are more plugged in than they might think they're. Like, you know, it's this weird.
Well, I mean, the biggest way for a con man to get I'm not saying that you know, to get a Joe or to target someone is to make them think that they're
an insider,
or they're like and so like that's why, like, let's just say in politics, I have a political background more. There's this guy, he kind of runs one of the main countries, maybe starts with an R, and everyone thinks they can outsmart him. You know, oh, he won't do this to me. I'll get away. Oh, he likes me, you know? And this guy who runs that country always, 1,000 out of 1,000 times, will backstab him, will outsmart him, will eat their lunch. you know, and like he just knows how to do that better than anyone I've ever seen, right? It feels like that is like very symptomatic of like the like people are like, well, I'm not going to get suckered because I'm blah 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 blah, but like, so remember we were talking about this a while ago. This punt fund guy, right? He killed himself on this thing because he kept on losing money, losing money, losing money. Now that was more of like a degenerate gambling, you know, because he just kept on. But like, isn't that more common than making a steady income off investing?
I think 2% of people, like I think the numbers on Pump Fund are something like 2% or less. Actually, 2% of the accounts that have ever interacted with Pump Fund have seen profit. 2%, and I think that number
isn't that a horribly low number?
It's a business.
But yet
but I wonder what the TradFi number is for like the common American. That's just
no. But so I'm saying like why do they keep?
I think
isn't there? I understand the addiction or the pool or you know the rich and like whatever. Like I'm not judging that. I'm just saying like 2% is
probably.
Why would you invest in something that's 2% success rate?
Just intuitively, the first thing that comes to mind is like that's probably right around the number of successful VC ventures, right? Like how many projects that VCs put money into eventually show them
like an angel investor or something,
right? Like so I think that taking that line of thinking is why people get it, because like yes, the chances of success are low, but because I'm getting in so early or whatever, you know, whatever the reason.
And then I painted Facebook's wall and I would have $80 million now. And I could do that because I took some stock options or whatever. Like I could be that
like
guy.
Kind of, yeah. Like you can back your way into a David Cho situation. But I think like that's Pump Fun. Like, but you know, looking at Pump Fun, what is the, you know, it's its own playground in a sense, because the whole point of it is to launch a new token. So like what does the appeal? Everyone knows that getting in early on a new token is how you make money. So what is Pump Fund? A launch pad for new tokens. So it's like, of course you're going to bring in a lot of like,
but how
really highly speculative people.
I guess I just like, okay, so then wouldn't you bet on a bunch of them and not just go all in on one? Like what
people do too.
What is so? I guess I get it actually now that you explained it with the VC and the entrepreneurial kind of thing. Like I actually that explained a lot to me of why you would do it, because like you research, you do this, you like the guy, you kind of like it's not as random as I'm making it seem. You know, like people do their due diligence and like, oh, this guy is invested in it, and that's where I think they actually get suckered. Probably is with when Malay or some famous guy, and they're taking that trust of that, and so that actually put it all together for me.
Yeah, and like influencers are a huge part of this, or like just they are trusted by their following for whatever one reason or another, whatever reason, and so they say this is the thing.
And so what happened with Sam Bankman-Fried? What did he do?
That was a completely that's
Bitcoin though.
It was everything. It was Bitcoin. It was ETH. It was fucking Solana. It was It was Luna. It was.
And he kind of combined that Silicon Valley aspect to it, also.
Silicon Valley, right up to the top of politics as well.
Scaramucci was in that.
The really, you know, like also like the Fed, Gensler.
Yeah.
Went to, you know, like there's this weird triangle relationship between Bankman-Fried, the girl, what was her name? Grippy. No. Caroline Ellison, something like that. Her, that's his girlfriend, or one of his, or whatever. Sam, both of their parents have a relationship going back to their college years. And Gensler ties into the middle of it because both of their parents also have a relationship with Gensler. Yeah. So Bankman-Fried and his company Alameda
This is so big, by the way.
launched what was their exchange called? FTX, right? So there were
Okay.
two
Oh, that was the big
giant
one.
corporate so there
Yeah.
were two giant corporate entities, FTX and Alameda. Alameda was like the VC investment market manipulator side of things, and FTX was the, just like Coinbase, centralized exchange. So what would people do? They deposited their money. They had a balance. They had a little line of this is your balance of crypto that you have, and you're moving it
And
around.
what was he doing? Stealing
He was
it?
taking all of that money and manipulating markets with it.
So he didn't have the capital to at all.
They had capital, but they were manipulating markets in a profoundly
I'm
gigantic.
saying, like,
and
why can't he
public
pay
way.
it back? What happened to the money? Is he betting it
He
on
could
other?
have. The money was taken by the government.
Oh, I see. And
He
now
could
what
have. And
happened?
he was saying, I can pay this, but he's like, I can't pay all of that. But dude.
So in a way,
the government is what fucked most of the people of the.
So what did he get arrested for? Lying?
Yeah, and just also, and basically like Alameda Research and FTX were sharing. So
I see.
all of the funds coming into FTX were then being given to Alameda to do whatever the fuck they were doing, and then hopefully they would have it. So it was like he was running a very large scale Ponzi in one way because like that money from FTX was just flowing into Alameda.
Because like,
and then
I'm thinking about Madoff, and Madoff did not have the money because he kept investing it, and so like when people wanted to cash out all at once, that's when he went to jail.
Right. And I think like, dude, honestly, most centralized exchanges are just straight up Ponzi's. Like if everyone cashed out at the same time, they would just they would freeze it.
That goes back to my original question. So I guess what drew you into crypto? We kind of went over it. And then what are those factors that drove you into it still exist? Why do you keep on doing it? And then why would someone do that now? I guess.
Yeah,
if that all makes sense.
That's a great question. So the first, like, what drew me into it initially, when I was first exposed to Bitcoin, it was trading at like something like $1, a little over $1, $1.30, something like that. That was 2010. And then the next time I paid attention to it, it was at like $3, and that was like however much time had passed. And then I saw that it crashed below $1. So within that time, and that was all like 2010, 2011, maybe 2012, like sometime around that era.
When was the first Bitcoin made?
2009.
Traded? Okay.
2009.
So you were right. You were a year or two in after that.
Yeah, but like in my awareness that it existed, but I thought I was a genius for that because like I had the initial like, yeah, maybe I should buy some, and then it went up, and I was like, fuck, and then it went way down. I thought I'm a genius, like and whatever, but I didn't. So I was aware it existed, and I was exposed to the ethos of Bitcoin, of the decentralized peer-to-peer cash system outside of the control of the regulatory bodies of the governments and the banks. That already spoke to me. I think a lot of it in my own thinking about this, my parents are refugees from Soviet Russia.
Yeah.
And so my perspective on
government
and banks is that like they have acted in governments blanketly in general have acted in a less than honest way in my family's history.
And in communist countries, they could just take shit.
I think in any country.
But I'm like, no, but I'm saying like that up until,
and they could take shit. They would take shit. They would disappear you. The whole.
I had like China will just take your house and give you like 10 cents on the dollar. I heard, or something because it's communist. They're allowed to do that, and so like the mechanisms to do that, because it's all for the state and the country and every citizen, in theory, is supposed to work for each other and for the state and not themselves. The ethos to take someone's house and the government mechanism was there. So, and they're probably, also like pogroms or whatever. And so, yeah, I could see where there's a healthy distrust of government, where someone like me, who was in California, 90s, capitalist, democracy, doesn't think like that, maybe necessarily.
Yeah. I think that, so like, also the times, like the 2008 crash, and the sort of when
and we just graduated that year too, like into the crash.
And like the Satoshi, I didn't graduate, but yeah, like the Satoshi's the headline when Satoshi first released the Bitcoin white paper to the cypherpunk emailing list, the first line of the thing was, the Times, Bank of England bails out Lehman Brothers or whoever.
Yeah.
For right. So
absolutely
the trust in the governments and the banks to hold up their end of the bargain had like
right.
completely disintegrated.
And then the government bails out the banks, and the customers left holding the bill. So that's absolutely right. That's exactly what happened.
So framing it in like the context of what was happening at the time, and then my own experience, my own history, and like I have like I'm highly aligned with sort of the cypherpunk ethos that Bitcoin was originally born out of, and so that is what So it's like it was definitely very appealing to me. At the time, like I sort of work in and around software now. At the time, I wasn't. At the time, I hadn't even gone through my self-taught web dev thing. So there was just the appeal on that end of things. And so I kind of put it to the side and sort of watched as Bitcoin went from like, gradually grew up to $100 per coin. And
plus we were at San Diego State when we were there. There was this whole drug situation, and so black market drug. I mean, that was what it was used for a lot, and like that was also. I would imagine I would have bought drugs back then if I could in college.
Yeah, I think it wasn't the Silk Road stuff was after the launch of Bitcoin, like 2009 through till whenever they locked up Ross.
Because I don't know, people just like when we went to San Diego State, it got raided. A bunch of people got arrested.
Yeah, I think the largest bust in like maybe college history of drugs was at 2006.
And like people we knew got arrested, which is kind of trippy to think about. And so anyway, like I could see also maybe that for me, that would have been a pull into crypto also, I would say. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that maybe it would be interesting to do a breakdown of that, but at the same time, I don't want to do a breakdown of all that.
I'm just putting some context. Like we were like surveilled. Like we were followed. I was followed by the police because of the associates that we were. And like I remember
the associates thing was pretty.
And I remember now thinking like they're not following me. I'm being paranoid, probably because I was smoking weed all the time. And like, no, they were. Like they were. And then it turns out like they were arrested. So anyway, like. That affected me a lot. So maybe it affected you. I don't know, since we were there at the same time.
Oh, sorry. Certainly, if it certainly informed my perspective. I was already gone when I left. Like October of 2006, I think is when I moved back home.
Oh,
so, or like just maybe like, like so. And then when everything happened, like so, I was certainly like holy shit. But I was already.
Oh right, yeah, you were.
I was already gone.
But they were well into their operation still.
I mean, yeah, I was getting reports of what was going on.
Yeah.
And as like at some point it was confirmed that, or somebody.
Well, there was this house that we would go to.
Yeah, the house. It's about what I was going to say, that the house was being surveilled.
And that was like, it was definitely being surveilled.
Yeah, 100%. And so it should have been.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying like I had a parking spot there, so like of course they're following me because I'm in and out. Like just like I was paying for my I literally parked there every day I went to school because it was right on campus, and so anyway, if you want to buy drugs. As an adult, not saying you would, but I'm just saying like, that would have been like they would not have been able to do all that and stuff if we had that ability. And so to me, it's like that the government, like I graduated in 08 in December, and the crash was September 08, and and then you see all this stuff, and so like and they're not wrong. I think so you're saying when they had this peer-to-peer, cyberpunk, all this stuff, you would agree that they were onto something, that you would still think that, like in retrospect.
Yeah, even at that time, to kind of because we went on a huge side tree. No, it's cool. It's perfect actually. So like the appeal to me in the beginning with my initial exposure to Bitcoin is like that's where it's like, I think there's something here. The the chances of its success or whatever. I wasn't thinking too much about it at that time in like the early 2010s, let's say. Then at some point, I went on a self-taught web developer journey where I was learning to code and learning to build web pages and then React and try to build apps. And
well, there were no jobs available, so
I very luckily got a job in Boston, like my first software position, first as a tier 2 technical support agent, and then as just like a developer writing scripts and managing different jobs and processes that were happening and like fixing them when they would break. And that was my entry into software. But as I was on, like before I ever got that job, and by the way, when I was in my time at that job, I always had my eye specifically on the Ethereum ecosystem because I knew that's where I wanted to go. And the reason that I wanted to go there was someone who is now a very good friend of mine, a very, very close friend of mine. But at the time, I just met him at an unsanctioned rave in the Joshua Tree Desert in 2016. I was already on my self-taught web dev path. I was already I had already recaptured Bitcoin in my mind and was looking at it heavily. It was just like, and I think I was already investing in it at that point. But
it's so funny that this is happening at Joshua Tree. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I started talking to him about Bitcoin, and he said, if you think Bitcoin is cool and you sort of you align ethically with it, you should look at Ethereum because it is even cool. It's Bitcoin on steroids. And that the very next day, I started entrenching myself, just absorbing as much as I can about Ethereum, mainly through like Reddit and the whatever content I could find on ETH. And in 2016, a lot of stuff was happening on ETH, and the price went from like $1 to above 100, and that was the first big run for ETH. Was
so Ethereum at that time was, compared to Bitcoin, was like the Wild West. You could do whatever you want.
I mean, yeah, you could launch tokens arbitrarily on Ethereum. Like again, it's trustless and permissionless. So if you have the capability and the value to do it, you can just do it. But Ethereum is the world, or at least it's supposed to be, the world decentralized computer and database, meaning anyone can interact with it, but anyone can launch a program on it, and anyone can interact with that program. And those programs are called smart contracts. It's kind of a misnomer, the name smart contract, because really it's a computer program that you launch on the world computer and database. It takes value to do that. You need to pay an ETH too, because there's a bunch of code that needs to be deployed and saved and distributed amongst all of the validator nodes and blah, blah, blah. So it costs, depending on how complex your contract is, that's how much it's going to cost to deploy it. But anyone can do it as long as the fucking thing compiles. And even if it's a broken program, you can fucking launch it. Good luck to anyone who uses it. So that combined with the censorship resistant nature of it, anyone can do it. Anyone can communicate on it. Anyone can launch a program on it. Anyone can launch a token on it. There's all of this like fucking unrealized potential and value within it. And
is it encrypted, or the authorities just didn't know about it? Like, if people are so
mean, for at this, back then, I don't know what I was thinking. At this point, it's like the authorities might be the very ones who built the whole fucking thing, for all that we know, right? Like the authorities, because the way that we'll probably get into it on in later episodes, but it's becoming rather apparent that sort of the technocracy vision of Musk and others, and really like some big government contracted companies like Palantir and others like that, they might be the ones that have been running the whole the whole time.
Okay, because the government tried to kill Bitcoin, correct? Like that, like they were not embracing it, and you're saying that maybe instead of being like worried,
you're maybe controlling both sides of the narrative.
They were like chasing people into.
Yeah, they might have been cultivating an environment that pushed people towards it. They already control that other thing.
But don't you think that they're just naturally adverse to anything that wasn't the dollar or currency? Or do you think, no, this is like more of a play? Well, anyway, we'll get that.
It's a little bit nuanced. Like my take on this is more than a little bit nuanced, but I would say overall, I'm nothing. Very little would surprise me at this point. of like
Yeah.
what the true origin.
Right.
What I do know,
I
to the
mean,
best of my,
it would be a good way to track the underground market also, like just as a strategic CIA like thing to like, how are you going to keep track of terrorists? That would not be a bad way of doing it.
of course, and exactly, and then market it as the like the underground way to
Right.
do
And
things,
then you
whatever.
just let it go because you want to keep getting high. Like you don't stop them until you get to the top. You know?
You're right on. Like you're absolutely right on. I think a lot of people agree with that take too.
But that's not, honestly, that's not the worst motive. Like it feels like it could even be worse than that in a lot of ways. So, anyway, so
yeah,
2016, you're tripping in Joshua Tree. You're ideologically aligned with this Bitcoin, and now you're jumping to Ethereum.
Yeah.
What? And then so now you're like super turned on to it.
Yeah. So like the possibilities, really, it's like, okay, so people can now participate in an economic system that, let's say, on its face, is not controlled by any central entity, though it has big influencers and insiders and blah blah. But it's not the government. It's not the banks, as far as we could tell at the time. Right. And I think even people were claiming back then. But like, so not only is it a ledger and a store of value that now people can interact with permissionlessly, it can't be censored, it can go across borders, all of that, but now you can launch computer programs and tools and solutions to program or problems and track data in a permissionless way. Like that is like, holy shit. Like I had a holy shit moment of like the things that would have made Bitcoin a more complete, more whole thing. And really I could only slightly begin to grasp technically the accomplishment of what Ethereum is and was. So and I could appreciate
as a software person, you were there. Yes. There's that whole other side also.
And there was a ton, and I think this might have been the biggest reason that I became so Ethereum aligned, other than like what they were espousing ethically at the time, was there was a ton of developer enthusiasm, and it was the hottest fucking thing that, like, at least from my perspective, everyone wanted to learn how to write smart contracts and Solidity. Everybody was trying to.
And the original cyberpunks or whatever, they were also developers.
A lot of the original cypherpunk emailing list people that received the Bitcoin white paper first went on to contribute to the development of Ethereum.
But their background
or were on that Ethereum or were on that cypherpunk.
But I'm saying, like, did their background align with like being software developers?
I was almost, like, to be on that cypherpunk list.
So like you connected to them on a very personal level, in a way, like you were like continuing their legacy as like software developers.
And I looked up to them a lot because they were like, they, at the time,
that's like I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they were my, not like, he wasn't heroes, but it was like people that I had aspirations to be as technically adept as the leaders in the
well, like, I'm a writer. If I read Michael Crichton, I want to be as good as them or something, like something like I want to be like that. Well, just like as good as he was. Like I actually think he's just like he was just.
I like Crichton.
Yeah. So commercially, I'm just never. I don't think anyone is going to be really that big. Like unless, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not getting into that. But like just his skill, I would like aspire. And so I feel like that's what I was trying to get to. Like you're aspiring to be that skillful and that impactful and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and to be able to play in this environment that they were dreaming up and actually bring it into reality. And that maybe that answers all 3 points of the question. And what keeps me around is I think that all of the same potentials still exist, both financially but like more technologically, what can be achieved with the foundations that Bitcoin and Ethereum have created. I think Bitcoin and Ethereum both have massive problems, but the upside of that, or like the positive side of it, or the flip side of it, is that now that it has been shown that it can be done, that people will participate, that communities do grow around these things, that it works. There are other projects, and the project that I work for currently, or like sort of the parent organization of the project that I work for currently, is called the Institute of Free Technology. And it's basically is trying to encapsulate the ethics of that original cypherpunk ethical movement of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and create infrastructure that will allow people to build on top of it in that permissionless, censorship resistant, and private way that sort of combines the Bitcoin and the Ethereum ethical philosophies, but with a way more updated technological approach, given everything that's been learned up to this point.
Right.
So they're launching.
That's what I was going to say. The fact that it's even exists, though, is kind of the victory in itself, because there's so much learned. There's it's showed durability, perseverance. Like you said, it has a base. People have made money. But I guess you're saying, or I'll ask this: how close is it to just being dead? Like, there's so many coins coming up. There's so much credibility issues. There's so many people losing money. There's people killing themselves on live streams over it. Like, are you trying to save it?
Funny,
Does it need? I mean, well, I'm just
No, I laughed and then I said it's not funny.
Well, as a writer, like when I read that story, it was so insane, and it's like, I feel like what drives.
Do we know it's real?
Well, so now you have an AI component to contend with, which I think could maybe revolutionize, help. As it might be the ideal thing to partner with AI. This type of currency. It's more durable, cash is we're already all on credit cards and Apple Pay. It makes a lot, there's countries using Bitcoin. Like I always get the wrong one. Which one switched their whole economy to cryptocurrency like 5 years ago? El Salvador, right? Yeah.
Yeah, look what's going on there now.
I honestly, I wanted to make sure, just because of that. I own like 95% was El Salvador, but I was like, I do not want to talk about El Salvador unless it's 1,000%. That was the country that did it. And so, however, it just seems like it's almost impossible to decipher unless you're like so into it. Being not regulated, as many advantages as it brings, like, you're going to see people just, these rug pulls and scams and cons are going to just keep happening. So I guess, where do you see the future? Do you think it's here to stay forever without any, like, I feel like what you're trying to do is like bring it back in a way to like what it's supposed to be, the foundation and all these things. Is that possible? Is it necessary? And and without it, what do you think happens?
So I say personally, what I would like to see, and I'm very grateful that I work at an organization that I'm basically 100% aligned with ethically, and what they're trying to bring forth is a permissionlessness. I keep adding syllables. A permissionless, censorship-resistant, and private system for all of the features that already exist on Ethereum.
Yeah.
I want that to be realized. So the private side of things is what's missing, in that, as it stands now, Ethereum and Bitcoin are perfect surveillance tools. Right? Like,
so how do you add the resistant, unregulated, and the moral code? Are you just like, are you hoping for that?
The moral codes are decided amongst individuals.
Well, how do you ensure people just don't get robbed left and right, I guess, with that, and preserve what you just said? So
the tech, that's a nuanced question. So the tech, like, you can't, and you will never, you can't ensure that people won't get scammed or tricked, and people won't be influenced to interact with, or send their value over here, or do this or that, or that somebody will launch a scammy virus, like, or not virus.
I mean, at some point, the customer has to take some responsibility, for sure.
What needs to be there for even any of that bad stuff to exist is the foundation for the system itself to exist. If a system like as described exists, then it will allow for human coordination outside of the influence of the traditional governments and banks, where they can still interact, they can still have economies, they can still have services, they can still communicate, they can still have public and private identities without the Eye of Sauron. That's the
So you're kind of trying to mainstream it in a way,
I would love, yeah, like, and
or
yeah,
you're
I
ideologically trying to mainstream it.
I would like to, as meaningfully a way as possible, ease the pressure of the thumb of the government
I guess
and
my thing
banks
is,
on humanity.
the bank gets robbed. I got scammed out of like thousands of dollars on my credit card. I called the credit card company, and I got a result.
Yeah,
because they're a bank, and they have laws. I mean, like we said, that's not perfect, and 08 was a good example and stuff. But like as of now, like they have insurance, they have laws, they can credit it back, they have the capital, blah blah blah. Like what? It just seems like Bitcoin. I could, if I lose my, or if they're on whatever the term is, and I'll get it right at some point in my life. What? How do you ensure that they like that can't happen at least, or you can get your money back, or is that just not part of it?
No, a lot of the time, most of the time, if you sent your shit somewhere, like the self-custodial part of this is very important. It's what people have been trained to in exactly the. It's a major tenet of being a a participant in all of this, let alone a contributor, but even just participating. If you have a self-custodied wallet, it is on you to keep the private key safe, keep your seed phrase safe, and never act in a way that exposes control of that wallet to anybody else. And being informed as to how to operate, similar to driving a car, you have to be kind of trained up into what you can do, what can't. And similar to driving a car, even if you do everything perfectly, you're still at risk.
Do you think that
other shit to happen?
Do you think the training should be required by these companies? At least with a warning, or like cigarette warning, you know, like should they have the death skull, like you are responsible for your seed? Well, like I'm sure not everyone that goes to crypto just knows exactly what you just said.
And those warnings by and large exist, but like how much people pay attention to them, and like it's like people reading the terms of service sometimes.
But that is, you think that's? I'm saying you think that's enough? Terms of service, like
no, I think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who make a living like doing content, creating content around how to operate safely in the space, and how to practice safe.
So self-custodial, I think that is definitely like when you talk about ethics and stuff. I think that answers a lot for me. I don't disagree with it at all. It's like
a lot of responsibility on you.
Yeah, and I kind of like that because now that kind of squares the circle, or whatever circles the square of like the ethics and what you're trying to preserve. And it's like the ethics is the preservation of what you're trying to preserve. The other stuff is not exactly. That's onto anyone that it's like you buy the ticket to the movie. That's what the movie is. You know, like we're not changing the movie for you.
And a lot of people like where a lot of the liquidity comes from. Like even for me, it's the same. Like I had ETH. I bought ETH because I believed in ETH, but then DeFi summer happened, where all of these decentralized finance tools came out in 2020, and then the NFT craze happened. So a lot of my ETH went into these new tokens, these NFTs, these things.
When you say they went in, that's oops. Sorry. It's incomplete. 1 second.
Technical difficulties.
It's just saying that it's not plugged in. So that should be okay. All right.
So yeah.
When you say a lot of your ETH went in that, you're saying you made those investments?
Yeah, I mean, most of them were tragic investments, but like, because you already have the capital on chain, it's easy to move it around. You know, like once, and that's also part of the value is like, there's so much fiat that has moved and the value of that has been parked on chain across all of the chains, like agnostic of anyone. That's another part of why they will have longevity now, is like the more value that gets sunken into these markets and systems and networks, the higher chance they have to survive, because that's human energy and attention that's also being put into these.
And it's for lack of a better word, it's pure. It's not manipulated, etc. But now you're saying
we could do many episodes. Maybe it's something we should get. I think it is something we should get into.
So I guess
is the origins of everything.
Mike, so one, when I said it was necessary, what were the three things you just said? The permissionless. What were those three?
Permissionless, decentralized, self-custodial, and private.
And private, okay.
Private is.
Can this work without 1 through 2, 3, or 4 of them, or all of those have to be preserved? Do you think? For just to be a functional, to be a functional system.
It has to be self-custodied.
Yeah.
It has to be permissionless. It has to be trustless. It doesn't have to be private, as we have seen, because all of this already exists with Bitcoin. It's already all of those things with Bitcoin. It's not private in that the ledger is public, and you know that this address has these many tokens. They've interacted with all of these different smart contracts. In the case of Ethereum, they have, everything is public. So if you can tie an identity to an address, we know everything you did, bro. And that part, so the private part is missing. Everything else already exists. So does it need all of these? I think, it does need all of it. It doesn't need the privacy, but for that human liberty part of it, the privacy needs it. Else, it's better than bank accounts.
But you're saying that, okay, so you're saying those things exist but are possibly being manipulated. The trust, the permissionless, all this, like there is someone kind of
human psychology and narrative is being manipulated. The functionality of the tech is also being manipulated, but the code is the law. The software that is running is the system. Now, people can make proposals to change it, and in order to adopt these changes, a consensus needs to be made amongst the node runners. If it's in the case of Bitcoin, so let's say like we want to change this feature of Bitcoin. We want, let's say, for instance, increase, which this might happen. In fact, a lot of people are predicting it will. We want to increase the supply cap of Bitcoin from 21 million to 30 million, let's say.
Was that Civil War?
That was the
movie about?
Yes. Well, that was the block size war between Bitcoin and what became Bitcoin Cash. It's a similar thing. It's similar, but the argument was different. It was an argument about fees and the size. How many transactions should you be able to fit into one block? And there was the small blockers versus the big blockers, and the big blockers eventually went to Bitcoin. Whoa, hold on. Bitcoin Cash were the small blockers. No, they were the big blockers. Fuck, I have to look. Shit. But that was the divide. That was the divide between big blockers and small. That was the block size wars. The let's ask thing. So summarize in 2 sentences the block size wars and the results.
Yeah. And so the original sorry, I fucked that was tangential. But the block size wars, the original guys wanted to keep it the same. And the new guys wanted to make it more expansive.
They wanted to upgrade it to here. I have it right here, so I'll be according to Claude. The Bitcoin block size wars were a contentious debate within the Bitcoin community between 2015 and 2017. Mm-hmm. So like right as I was really starting to pay attention, that's why like my memory of this is a little bit over whether to increase the maximum block size limit beyond 1 megabyte, with the conflict ultimately resulting in a hard fork that created Bitcoin Cash as a separate cryptocurrency with larger blocks while the original Bitcoin retained the smaller block size. The outcome established Bitcoin's conservative approach to protocol changes, prioritizing decentralization and security over transaction throughput, while Bitcoin Cash pursued a vision of crypto as primarily a payment system with lower fees. Though Bitcoin has maintained dominance in market value and network effects, Bitcoin Cash still survives and is, if not thriving.
And Satoshi,
so bigger blocks for Bitcoin
Satoshi's
Cash,
in the original
more
Bitcoin.
fees earning for the validators.
And Satoshi's in his, like, the whole thing
You
was
are
like
muted, sir. There you go.
Am I good now?
Oh, still. Nope.
How about now?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Okay. Well, this has been Have a Take with Cherry Lake, episode 0.
How about now? Can you hear it?
Nothing. Unless it's my own. No, I'm still good. Okay, well, this is as good a time as any to wrap. Thank you, Lake, for being here. I am Chair. Take care of yourselves, everybody. We will be back for more. This has been a fun little test run. Thanks, everyone.